Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's episode is actually very dear to my heart, very special one that we're recording right now. We are joined by my father in celebration of Father's Day. I just thought it would be a great idea to really get into the mind of my father in his role as a father and now a role that he has been enjoying of late, which is that of being a grandfather. He is the CEO of the Namibian Association of Local Authority Officials, NALAO. He is also known as the CEO of CEOs in the industry. He is the co-founder and serving leader of Kingdom Legacy Movement International, and he's the owner of Leaderation, which is a management, leadership, and strategy consultancy. With the many hats that he has, that he's navigating, he is also a husband to my mom and a grandfather, and most importantly, the role that has him sitting here today is his role as a father. Welcome, Daddy.
Thank you. I feel welcome.
So we're going to go right into the topic. I gave you a little brief about what it is that we want to discuss today, and it's in essence just Daddy, the father. I would like us to start off with, just you briefly talking about your relationship with your father. I think that is where we are, in essence, first introduced to parenting, is when we see our parents in the element of being mothers and fathers, and just about your relationship with your father and how it has shaped you as a father.
Yeah. I was really privileged to have actually two fathers who fathered me very well. Of course, Pastor Shilwama, Nathaniel Shilwama, really built in the spiritual elements and content in my life. But I was separated at 2 years with my father and only reconnected after grade 3. In the meantime, I was fathered by Dida, Herman Kawet. He's the one who really built into me the qualities of being a man, working on the farm, working with wires, anchors season, working with animals, working with the tools of the farm, how to make the yards and the fences. We did a lot of fence work. There were times that I really camped with him on a farm, just working with him, sleeping in the field, eating from a tin, just becoming a man, working hard. And then I thank God that I later reconnected with my biological father, which really built in then the spiritual principles and values and fathering also. So yeah, it was quite good, and they had a very good relationship with each other, which is quite a blessing for me. You don't find that in today's world where you'll have your stepfather and your biological father having such a good relationship. Both of them are late now, but I really do. There are times when I really miss both of them. You never get over the death of your father. That's one of the things. No matter how long it has been, you still keep on missing some of the conversations you had, the inputs that they made in your life. So that's, yeah.
You spoke about your relationship with your fathers, and I would just like to ask, maybe just to give you a chance also to reminisce, what is your favorite memory of each of your fathers that you have just spoken about?
Let me start with Tita Herman. He used to call me Mekent. This was his favorite word for you. And, sometimes during the time that he was smoking and after I became born again, it was difficult for me to buy tobacco and those things. So he would always say, Megent, Nana iskuzai. Nana is saying, Amas saying, that was his favorite, and I really loved that relationship because it was such a simple, open relationship, and he used to play, I don't know, is it the accordion, trek clavier. He used to play that, and he used to sing this favorite song of mine. Kula banzuru mahosa, kula banza, kula banza, kula banzuru mahosa, kula banza. Yeah, so that was his thing. I remember Papa Shiloma with. That's why I really learned. He was really a self-made man. He didn't progress that much in education, but he learned to read and write at a very early age. And you know, in Ocho, you were not allowed as a black person to buy bread, white bread, or normal meat. So my dad was able to sort of write the handwriting of his boss. So he would write a note for himself when he wanted to eat white bread or he wanted to buy, because black people were only allowed to buy afal and brown bread.
Sure.
So he would write a letter and then he would go with that as if it was his boss, sign it. And then he would go and then he would buy that. And, you know, we used to, yeah, that's how I remember. And he loved reading. So I would always buy the daily newspapers, and then his favorite newspapers were the weekend newspapers, the Windhoek Observer that time, and then the Sunday paper was the Rapport. The Rapport South Africa was the one that I used to buy. So that's why I also learned quite a lot to read and to be up to date with what is happening in the world and politics. So when I think what I loved about him is he started to actually try to convince me to become born again. But I was that time very political, so I thought that this thing of religion was just a way by the South African regime to pacify us as activists. So I think he would talk, try to convince, and then he would just engage on the topical issues, on politics, on what is happening in the world, and sort of build a friendship with me. And we became actually. It is such a good thing to have had kind of a friendship relationship with my dad, where we could talk about everyday things, talk about politics or soccer, and he was a lover of Orlando Pirates soccer team. And so some Sundays, we, instead of going to church, if Orlando Pirates was playing on a Sunday, then my dad and my brother Jerry would actually go to the soccer field. But then he would always tell us that don't dress like you are going to a soccer game. We have to dress like we are going to church, you know, a bit official. So we'd go and watch Orlando Pirates games. So it was, in that sense, it was fun being with him, because we'd always go with him, especially to the soccer games and those things. So yeah, we enjoyed our time as young people, as sons with him. Yeah.
You when you were raising us, you would always use the phrase of you are not a telenovela father. A lot of times fathers are portrayed, especially on TV, as the strict guy that kids should be afraid of, and his word is the final word, and you know, he would always be used as a scaring tool. You know, I'm going to tell your father. And one of the things that were very beautiful being raised by you is you'd always say that you are not a telenovela father. What influenced your style of fathering? Why did you choose the fathering style that you have, that you've used, in raising us?
I think my fathering style was influenced a lot by my own fathers, because they were just real guys, simple guys who really just loved us and wanted the best for us. And especially my stepfather, we never used the terms like stepfather in any case, but the way he raised us, all of us together as kids and as brothers and sisters, although he didn't have much education, just really the order, the discipline, and listening, and my own, my biological father, just the way that he was open to me, and we could talk about anything. And sometimes the reason why I said I'm not a soap opera father usually is because I think sometimes kids have this thing of, if they tell you something, even a mistake, maybe something is they broke something, or there's something happening in their life that they see fathers as being judgmental, and that you will be, there will be trauma, and you will beat them up, and there will be punishment, while you only want the best. So you want to hear also, because you have gone through certain experiences, and you want to advise. And especially I think there was a point at which I got to know the Lord, and at that point you want to pray with them and pray them through some things. But then it's always good if there is that open relationship between a child and the father, so that you can really help them grow up and mentor them.
Earlier we mentioned especially the different hats that you carry, and one of them are you leading a church, which has obviously also introduced you to a lot of other children who are not necessarily your own. What has it been like being a father to those that are not your biological children? Is there a difference in the way you are a father figure to them compared to how you father your biological children?
Yeah, it's such a privilege to father children who are not maybe biologically your own, but your children in the faith. And it has been a really interesting journey, because I've observed as a pastor, particularly some young people come in, you start to minister to them, and then after a journey, somebody will suddenly start to call you daddy. And that was I never realized that until a certain point that I could see what happened actually in the spirit realm, that somebody could, after calling you elder the whole time, or they would be addressing you as pastor, and then on a particular day, suddenly they start to call you daddy. And it is actually a supernatural thing for me, because at a particular time, the Holy Spirit connects the heart of someone with you, and then they start to see you not only as a pastor, but really as a father, and they start to call you daddy, and the relationship immediately shifts.
Sure.
And I think it takes both for your own children, but also for your spiritual children. When I led you and my daughter to the Lord, and Jeffro to the Lord, and somehow beyond the blood relationship, the fellowship of the Spirit brings a bond that is really strong.
Yeah.
And as a pastor and fathering spiritual children, I always tell people, you see, from your pastor, you can get maybe mentoring, you can get good teaching, but you are not going to get an inheritance. But when your pastor becomes a father to you, whatever I'm able to break through in the spiritual realm, that becomes automatically yours. You don't even have to pray for it, because children are entitled to the inheritance of their fathers, and that's what the joy of spiritual fathering is. Really something that it's something that humbles me personally, because it is a work of the Spirit, it is a work of the Lord, and I know there's been a bit, sometimes there are there's been abuses in this area where people say, because you are my spiritual child or spiritual son, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you cannot talk to another pastor, you cannot go to this church, you cannot do this. But I think, like fathering, natural fathering, also spiritual fathering works where there is a point at which you have to allow your son or your daughter to grow and to get out of the house, to be able to connect with others, and you just have to allow that freedom. And I used to unknowingly, maybe I can't say unknowingly, but by the Spirit I used to prophesy and say always when I was preaching and tell, I know there are some of you who will do greater things than me, because that's what the model that Jesus leaves us is, that he said, you will do greater things than I do, because I go to my Father, because of I make a way and make sure that I put into you something that will raise you to be actually better than me. And that's one what one would like to see. Although I think in some cases, some people would actually feel intimidated when a child or a son or a daughter would start to break through in areas they have not break through, or they start to preach better, or the Lord uses them mighty in a way you have not moved in. But that is really, and I used to tell other pastors who are intimidated, that, imagine your child, your son is an Olympic runner and won the gold at the Olympics. All you have to say is my son, is my daughter. that alone is enough. But you don't have to compete with your sons and daughters. And that really is the joy of, meeting people, and the relationship grow until they see your heart, connect with your heart, and suddenly they start to say, Daddy. From Pastor Elder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, Daddy was serving on the school board of my high school, and a lot of the kids actually took notice of you, because you'd be invited to our assembly so often that they already knew you. In fact, they were also calling you Daddy. And I remember when, at times that you would fight, and they knew your car, they knew they knew what car you were driving. So on their way, when they would bunk school or whatever, and they see your car, they make a U-turn. I remember the importance of a father's presence, not only at home and at church, but all the other places where a child finds themselves, whether it be at the play park, whether it be at school, whether it be at the other extramural activities that they have. You knew all the houses where my friends would stay at. You'd go drop me off, you'd go pick me up from there. It was never a thing of I'd have to lie to you about where I'm going, because you knew. And if you were looking for me at the time and I told you I'm at Zenith's place or I'm at Evie's place, then you knew where to drive to go get me. So how important is it that fathers are present wherever their kids are also present?
I think it's very much important just to build that relationship of trust with the kids. When I was at the David Besidenthood, I really enjoyed the role of fathering. I would go to the assemblies, then I would tell because I knew the girls were so English, so I tell the girls, say Daddy, and the girls said Daddy, and I say the boys must say Pa, because so. It's I think something that God has graced me with, His grace for fathering. I enjoy working with young people, and just getting in their language. Although I say always I'm BBC, born before computers. So yeah, I think it's very important for me. It has been important because I want to know what is happening in the lives of my children. And it's the most frustrating thing is when when kids are not open with you, especially where they are friends, even if it is, a questionable thing or relationship that they are open, because you just want to protect and you just want to open a way. So yeah, it has been a joy too, and most of your friends would, for instance, know me as Daddy more than more than as Sharon. So I really enjoy that role, and because you get a sense of, when you develop a relationship with the Lord as a father, you get a sense of how His heart must be feeling, and you want to extend that grace, because it's not always that all the children who cross your path have a good relationship with their father, or maybe some of them lost their fathers early in their lives, and just to get a glimpse of how it could be, that is really something that I enjoy. Yeah.
Okay. Yesterday, my husband and I were watching a video of a social experiment that they were doing, where they placed a man next to a little girl, and another man came up, walking up to the girl, saying that your mom sent me, to take you to the restaurant. She's just at the restaurant. And the girl in the video said that, no, I don't, I'm not going with you. I don't know you, and so forth. And the man that was sitting next to her, stood up, and protected her, and said that he actually asked the guy, what is her name, and he couldn't say her name, and then he was like, no, you're not gonna take this girl, not on my watch. And it's very important to have men like that in the community, that will not just look at a little vulnerable girl and allow another man to, kidnap her or have his way with her. How important do you think it is for fathers in particular to have a community of men, that they can rely on, that they know that in my community, every man here should be a safe space for children? How important do you think that community is for men?
Yeah, what a what a different world we would have if every man had that. And I think that's, in fact, the design of God for man is one that protects, one that provides, and one that secures destiny. And in that sense, I think every man should have that spirit that naturally you just want to protect those around you, and you would not allow anyone to be harmed in your presence, or as that man said, on your watch. That it is a pity that sometimes with this selfie and cell phone camera culture of ours, sometimes something bad is happening, and people, instead of helping out and risking their lives, would rather take videos, a picture to be seen as the first one to be on the scene. And I think it is something that we ought to be as men, to have that spirit, that understanding that when anybody is under threat of harm, that we should be there and really defend and protect. Yeah, that's how God has designed us. And I think, in a sense, I think it is a natural instinct for fathers to protect. Yeah.
Do you have a father community? I know a lot of times, us women get together, especially if you don't have to know someone, but the moment you realize that this is a mother, you guys get to have conversation that is so relatable, because you all go through something like that. Do you have a father community that, when you go through issues of life in terms of parenting or fathering, that you can call up and just have conversation with? And how easy, or what has it been easy to establish a community like that, if you have one?
There is not really a father community per se, but I was invited last year to a group of pastors, actually, and friends called, and we called the group the War Room, and which regularly has, every Friday there's an invitation that we can just have coffee together. with pastors like Pastor Gerard Mastorp and others, and it's a place where you can be yourself as a man and as a pastor, what you are going through, whether it is with a congregation or at a personal level, and those kind of platforms are really rare. I personally don't like formal organized platforms, but a self-organized platform like that, and you are not under any pressure or obligation. Sometimes brother would say, sorry brothers, this Friday I cannot come, I have another appointment, or I'm out of town. When you are there, you are there, and you don't have to really, it's not expensive. You just go to a place where you can maybe spend a $50, sometimes a $30. If you don't want to have breakfast, you just take a coffee and you are there. And on a day when you are short, somebody else will just chip in and say, okay, today I'm taking care of 2 people's bills, and we just talk. Pastors would be sharing about what they are preaching on, where the Lord is leading them. I really appreciate that platform, because it's a place where we can strengthen one another, pray for one another, and just talk as men, just have fun. It's not a structured program, and that's really something that is lacking in society, is that platform. What I really also enjoy is talking to my son-in-law. We have those talks where we can talk for 30 minutes on the phone or on a WhatsApp call, and it's really, although he's younger, we can really be open with each other, and when you are going through something, we can pray for one another. So that really...
Diddy, you were the type of father, and maybe just also for those who are viewing, like Diddy would, on a day when I would maybe say like, no, I need to attend an event, but I need to do my hair, so I won't get time to go dress for what I need to wear, you would easily, without even thinking twice, go out and do shopping, and you would go into the shop and video call me, and then go through all the different dresses, and then I'll choose which dress I want, and then you'd buy the dress and come. It was just so easy to juggle, raising a girl or being a girl with you as a father. It was just so much fun. You would make me feel special. You would send flowers on my birthday to school. I would always send out, and I think there was a time when I told you when I went to high school that you don't have to send flowers, because now, at primary school, I'd get called to the principal's office to go get my flowers, and then the kids maybe thought I had like a boyfriend or something, but it was actually my father, and these things are not known, in the community. I remember when I think we were still in primary school, and we moved to our new house, and it had like roses planted. And on Valentine's Day that year, you got up early and you cut off some roses, and you gave all your girls the roses, and you told us that even if no one gives us flowers, you are our Valentine, and that we shouldn't have an expectation, when we go to school and so forth. So it was quite different. But it was my normal, having a father that did all these things, whereas other girls wouldn't have that relationship. Did you use a different approach in raising your girls compared to raising your boys? Is there a different way of raising boys and raising girls?
Yeah. Yeah, some of those things just came naturally. I probably the grace of God, and it just gets you to love your girls. And when you're babies, when my girls are babies, you're always imagining yourself how it will be when they are now 2 years old, when they can walk, when they are now young girls in their teens, and I was always imagining myself, when this one is 10 or 9, I imagine myself going to the shops, buying dresses, And then I used to, when you guys were babies, like when I go to the shop and just seeing that when do they grow up so that I can do these things? And so it was exciting, the fathering process. I still feel that's one of the miracles of the great joys and miracles that God has given us is, how this person is developing in the body of your wife and seeing and somehow there's just a closer relationship that developed between me and my wife, even when there's a baby and there's that formation process, and it's just exciting to get flowers. But most importantly, I think my goal was to say that you don't ever need to be validated by a man or by a person for you to feel beautiful and loved and wanted. And that's why I remember I used to read from, is it Psalm 139? You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Don't let men define or people define you, because your heavenly Father made you this way. So I really enjoyed being kind of an unorthodox father by the standard I was raised with, try to do things differently. It's not that there was a script for those things, but you just see the kid and suddenly you just want to show something and appreciation. And especially for you, because you also shared a birthday with my wife, it was always special to now I got a double gift on this day. My wife was born on it, so I cannot just buy one flower. So I have to. So that was fun doing that. Really, just trying out things. Yeah. I think one of the things that I really loved in raising my kids is, especially in the early years, especially when my wife was not working, was you really just having family fun. Like we used to play a lot of games together, travel together all the time. And with the boys, what I preferred because boys, I figured, for me as a man, I was not really about gifts or anything. So the boys, I would more like, based on my experience with my fathers, just take them along to when I traveled for work or when I have traveling, then I would take them along, or just so that they can be in the environment, see what I do, how I operate. So boys were more like companions, so that they can see more quality time together, just having, just traveling on the long road. And that's also something that I really, in the later years of my dad, Papa Shiloma, we used to travel a lot together, and sometimes we are just the two of us traveling to Ocho or traveling to another town, and those are the times that he really input in my life, and we could really be completely open about any topic, and we could talk, and he would share his heart, even some of the things that happened when I was young, and why he had to leave, and what happened with him, and why he couldn't get connected to us in a short time, and why it took so long before we got reconnected. He was completely open and honest about those things, and enabled me to find healing or separation healing or something. Because when you are separated at such a young age with your father, for me it was more like that thing of, was it because I was not right, and you feel rejected and those things, and he really explained those things for me, so that I could find and understand and find healing in those areas. So it is good. For the boys, I preferred more just like spending time with them, traveling with them. With the girls, I really had a different approach.
Okay, I see. Previously Daddy stated that when there was a child or a pregnancy or a baby, you would feel more connected to our mother, to mommy. How important is it? How important is the relationship between or how important is the relationship that a father should have with the mother of their child, and even if they are not together, even when they are co-parenting. And I know um, you are not necessarily separated from the mother of your children, but there are men out there who are parenting or co-parenting. How important is it, to have that relationship, the relationship between a mother and a father for the children?
Well, for me, I've always believed, I don't know whether it is, I heard it in a sermon or something, but I always had this conviction that maybe somebody told me that the best gift you can give to your children is to love their mother.
Yes.
So I always operated from that perspective,
Yeah.
that I would really even go out of my way to show affection in front of the children to my wife, so that they can see and know that their dad loves their mother. I believe now, in hindsight, it gives so much security and stability to a child when they know their father loves their mother. It gives them that security, that safety, even if they are just playing around on their own and they see this relationship. It gives them so much peace in their hearts, and that's why I later on, because the Lord has given us the grace also to minister to married couples, and when I read the book of Malachi and why God actually hates divorce, and he says in his word, he considers it as violence against the children, that separation is like that tender heart of a child is so torn apart that God considered it as violence. So I really that relationship is really became, because sometimes some couples have problems when they get a child. In our case, our children actually brought us together more, and I was more able, and we really, even when we have a new baby, just that relationship we had of as a team working. My wife would be breastfeeding, and then I would take the responsibility of do the babying and dance with the kids, sing the national anthem until they sleep and stuff like that. So so I love doing those things. It's such a joy being a father. So So.
To the couples who, unfortunately, there is now a child, and due to differences between the two of them, separate, what is your advice, particularly to fathers, in maintaining, a good relationship with the mother, although they might not be in a relationship or might not be married?
I think it's peace is such an important thing for children to have, because many times when they separation, kids already blame themselves, and it's only helpful for fathers and mothers, even if, we are in a broken world, and sometimes things happen, people get separated, but it's so important to have that relationship, at least peaceful relationship, and that the fathers are in the lives of the children, because the father is the one that provides the identity and the stability. The mothers is the ones who gives the love, but the direction, vision, identity comes from the father. I always, when I train or advise parents, I say maybe the first 5-6 years the mother plays a more prominent role, but from there, especially as the child grows into teenage years, if the father is not present during those years to form and shape the character, it can really have quite devastating effects on the child. Yeah.
Sure. One of the most liberating things that you've taught me, or it actually came about in a conversation that you were having with your sister, and you actually included me in the conversation when you were speaking about, when choosing a life partner, that we don't necessarily have to look at the person should be born again because I'm born again, or because my parents are born again. But what liberated me is that, when you mentioned what you would like in an ideally for us, especially because you're raising girls who are so confident and that have a stance, or that are, so secure in themselves, is you don't want, someone who is insecure. One of the characters that you mentioned were, just look at the person's character. A man of integrity, a man of character, a man who stands for who he really is. And it was so liberating because, growing up, and when you're choosing friends and life partners, we normally look at what is it that our parents would want for us, and we go into a default that just because I'm Damara, whoever I choose must be a Damara guy. Just because we are born again, hey, this guy must be born again, he must be from our church. And sometimes we're not compatible with people that is necessarily of the same background or ethnic group as we are. And that was such a liberating lesson, lesson that I got from you. My question to you is, what is the biggest lesson that your children have taught you?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes and I think one lens and one of the lessons that I've learned is that one has to be open-minded. I think in terms of, especially when you have especially choosing life partners, allow the Lord to open your mindset, because as we grow up, you are being raised, especially when you are born again, Pentecostal, you have a certain box in which you place, and even life partners, choosing life partners, but having the grace of God. Because the other day, I myself was thinking, when I met my wife, both of us were not born again yet, but just the mercy of God that, Lord, you brought us together and we were both sinners who didn't know you, but how our destinies are actually so intertwined, and now we see, God just really made the right choice. So God is sovereign, and He can bring people together because of destiny. You choose a life partner based on destiny, and that's why I always advise people, when you meet and are considering a life partner, when you go out, don't just talk about the how nice the food is and those things, but talk about real issues that you can at least test the character of the person. Look at how the person treats the waiters and the waitresses there, and whether the person is harsh towards others, or then you get a sense of how a person is by just, during the time you are dating or you are just friends, you get a sense of how a person is. Also, you check how a person is with his siblings. If the person has siblings, if it is a male, you check how the person treats his sisters, or things like that. That really helps. And trust the Lord. It doesn't have to be the same tribe. I realized, and so some of those things I really had to pray and repent also. Ask the Lord to show me really what His plan is. And sometimes the Lord would say, you are talking about, and you are so committed to my vision of making disciples of all nations, and you can't be choosy now about what I've built in a person, when your mindset has to be kingdom-minded, because that's what we are trying to build. Sometimes people are so scared of, if this person is not my culture or my tribe, or what kind of culture would our kids have? And what I now tell people is, what you are building is a kingdom culture. You are building a kingdom culture that is matching the two and saying, what does the word of the Lord say? How should we raise our kids? And all of those things comes. But I think that freedom and openness is so important here.
There's been a lot of talk recently, and especially on social media, about work-life balance. Like, does it really exist? Who has gotten it right? For those who have gotten it right, to speak about it and so forth. And what this means is that, how much time do we really spend at work compared to how much time we spend at home? Do we bring work back? Are we away from our children and our parenting duties, longer than what we're supposed to be? For us, and I guess it's also something that, we want to sort of perfect as new parents. But we have to work. We have to do something to get bread on the table. What has your approach been to work-life balance, whereby you are not totally absent from home and from parenting, where the focus is mainly on work? And how were you able to balance that out? Were you also at some point maybe struggling with it? How did you work through it? Yeah.
I think that is critical, because but unless you make time for it, I have come to a stage where I actually make appointments. You have to be able to make appointments with yourself and with your family. That's why even now, when I have a workshop or a meeting out of town, I always tell organizations, even whether it is government ministries or whatever, I tell them I don't like traveling on Sundays, because weekends are for my family. Sunday after church is time with my family. So if we have a workshop out of time, rather make it to start on a Tuesday. If it starts on a Monday, I would rather come late and travel on the Monday morning and join the workshop after lunch or something like that. And that's really a principle that I have come to, because I think initially when you were so busy and trying to build yourself up, you were there Monday over weekends, you are there over time, and in the final analysis, when things become tough, who you rely on is your family, is your people. And I really would advise people, without any fear of contradiction, family priority. At the moment, for instance, at the church, we are teaching on what makes a believer a real disciple maker or history maker. And out of the 8 principles, one of the key ones that I'm teaching on is family priority is key, because that's where society is built, from the family. And if you want to impact the society without building your family, already when the family is broken, the society and community you want to build will be broken. Eventually the nation will be broken. Eventually the whole world will be broken. So that's what we start to build. The first impact is where you have the legacy. And I believe as a father, I believe, of course, that your success is really not measured. I would not measure the success of a father by his personal achievements, but by the kind of legacy he leaves behind. And that legacy where people can mention your name with joy. And I mean, just imagine the blessing that, okay, she's not a father, but she's a mother, that in the story of Mary and Elizabeth, where Elizabeth says, "Blessed are you among the women." The generations will call you blessed. So the people after you must be able to call you blessed because of the way that you invested in their lives and your next generation. And that's why I put family really on top, close to, if you are a pastor, if you are a leader. Of course, your relationship with your wife and your children should be paramount. And that's why even if I'm in a meeting, if I see there's a call from my wife or from one of my children, I would just tell, no matter with whom I'm in a meeting, I would say I need to answer this call. So that's the kind of priority that one needs to place in terms of really investing in family, prioritizing family. And
you mentioned that a father is sort of nurtures the identity of the child, and a lot of times we find people, they don't know who they are, they don't know themselves. Only at an older age you sort of have to sit with yourself to know that who is Sharon not. What does she like, what does she not like? And we tend to sort of lose a sense of that growing up. Particularly, what would you advise us and fathers out there to be consistent in, to allow a child not to deviate from who they are, from themselves and from their identity?
See, it's so important that God in the beginning is sovereign. He's creator. He creates things out of nothing by the power of his word. And when he made men and say, let us make men, let them rule over the earth, let them have dominion, he also gave us that authority in our words. The Lord makes an animal, brings him, the man says, this is a lion, it is a lion. This one is a giraffe, it is like that. And eventually he makes the women out of the rib, and he exclaims, he doesn't even talk to them, and he says, oh, this now is my bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. So what he prophetically speaks is what the thing becomes. And that really is so much important for me, that as men especially, we realize the power and authority of your words, what it means in the spiritual realm. That is why I have decided within myself, no matter, because some of my kids can be naughty at times, they do things that you don't like doing and they make you angry, and sometimes something is boiling in your heart, but I always say, I will never speak a word that will allow the devil to have access to my kids. So no matter how angry I am, I would never speak a word that would be like a curse on my child. Like some parents or fathers say, this kid, jy sal in die tronk gaan beland, of jy sal net doodgaan, or and that's one thing that I advise not only fathers but parents in general. When you are angry, especially, to watch our tongue, because what you speak is so, especially fathers. As a father, you have the authority of God, even if you might not be a pastor or born again at all, but God has given us that authority as men, as fathers, and we speak things and destiny over our children. If you don't make your daughter feel that she is beautiful, that she is loved, she will go look for love in the wrong places. That's why the words of a father to both your sons and your daughters is so critical, because you speak destiny, you speak identity in their lives, and that's it's something, especially when you are angry. Watch your tongue as a father, so that you don't speak a word the devil is just waiting for you to speak that word, and then they'll say you give the devil the legal right to get in their lives and destroy their lives. So I've been really something that I've been praying the Lord, and always when I feel so provoked at times, that I just pray to the Lord, whatever I speak, even when I'm angry, let me never speak a curse over my children. And it's so important to always speak blessings, speak destiny, and pray for your children, because that's something I love doing.
Okay. Thank you so much. We've come to the end of our conversation where we get to know Daddy, the father. Is there something that I did not ask that you would maybe like to share? I know you're you're a man of words and wisdom, so I don't want to, limit this conversation to only the questions that I came up with or thought of.
Yeah, I think one of the things that as a father you really enjoy is when, as the Apostle John says, nothing gives me greater joy than to see my kids walk in truth. And I remember a time when you were in a queue for registration at NAST, and somebody offered you for money to jump the queue. And when you came back, you told me that I was there, and I listened to this person, and then I thought, ooh, Vatsal me pass if and the story. Then you said you rejected the offer, and it was one of the proudest moments. I mean, you achieved so much, but just that thing when you know that this kid has picked up what you have taught them, just the value system. And it also happened with Nona. At once they went to the NT and they had to audition for some roles, and then she was asked to play something that was completely out of line of something like being in a relationship with another lady, and she didn't say anything. She just took her things and left from the set. I'm not going to do anything that is not in line with the values that my parents have taught me. And that when children take decisions in your absence, that is really based on the values that you have taught them, that brings the biggest joy to a father. And I do pray that, and for me, I don't want my children to really do many things for me. All I want basically is that let them be children, obey what I say, follow the values that we teach you, and I can do anything for you. Go out of line, no matter what you want, spend the money, make the investments, but just be a child and just go along with the values that we teach. And that for such a child, you really want to lay down your life. That's me as a father.
Yes, definitely. I've loved to see that, and we are very grateful, and we just want to wish you on behalf of all your children, not only your biological children, but all of the children. We just want to wish you a very, very happy Father's Day. We definitely celebrate you every year, and now your grandchildren also get to celebrate Daddy the father. Sometimes it even feels like when our kids are with you, they forget about us. Only what Opa says matters. So we appreciate you, Daddy. We love you so much, and you are really a joy. It is a joy to be a daughter being fathered by you. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you so much. I really enjoy it, and especially the joy that I can have today to be with all my grandchildren. All my grandchildren are here, and the Bible says children's children are the crown of old men. So the grandchildren are like a crown for us, and then it says, and the glory of children are their fathers in Proverbs. I love that scripture so much.
Thank you, Daddy.
Thanks.